Before you put your Jeep project on the road, it's important to inspect safety items like tires and brakes. Let's talk about tires. First thing to check is the most obvious: does it have good tread depth? Most tires have some sort of tread wear indicator, so look up your specific tire. These NDTs have little wear bar indicators. You can see these are well above that, so they're good to go. A quick visual inspection can tell you if they're holding air, but it's always good to throw a gauge on it and make sure they're holding consistent pressure and not leaking down overnight. Moving over to another Jeep in this shop, we can check out the tread depth on these tires, which is excellent, but that doesn't always mean it's a good tire. Unfortunately, many of the Jeeps I see have this problem. These tires are extremely old, and while they're not wore out, they are no longer safe for the road. They have really bad weather checking, or dry rot, some people call it. Once these get up to speed, they will likely come apart. It's just not safe to drive on the road anymore. Sometimes an older tire will look good, like this one doesn't appear to have the bad weather checking, but it's still a bad tire. One trick I have to test for that is to remove the air from the tire, and as it squishes, the cracks and weather checking will become more apparent. You can see here as the tire is deflated, it's really easy to see just how bad this tire is. Unfortunately, these tires have reached the end of their life, and it's time to pop them off. Also a good time to check the wheel bearings and tie rod ends. This one is shot, so it's a great time whenever you have your vehicle up to look over everything and make sure it's safe, and make the appropriate repairs based on that. Remember, if you still have original studs, the driver's side will likely be left-hand thread. It'll have an L stamped on the end of the stud. We're gonna load these up and remove the tires from the wheels. It's a great time to clean them up and repaint them, rust-proof them, repair the valve stem hole if you have any damage, and just inspect them and make them look fresh and new. I had all my wheels sandblasted, then I primed and painted them, and they are ready to mount. Kaiser Willys catalog has a great selection of period correct vintage tires in all different tread types and sizes. For this project, I went with my favorite, the NDT from Firestone. I chose a 716. I also got a set of 4 brand new tubes to go with it. You can definitely have a tire shop mount these for you, but I'm a big fan of DIY, so today we're going to install these by hand in our shop using basic tools. The only thing you're really going to need for this is a good supply of shop air, some soapy water, a good gauge, valve stem tool, and a couple of tire irons. Remember, these were designed to be serviced in the field in as little time as possible with minimal tools. One thing I think is really cool about the old Firestone tires is although these are reproduction, they kept all the original markings. So they say Firestone, military. They have all the size and technical information about pressures, but they kept some of the old logos. So there's the Firestone gum-dipped logo. They also have a manufacture date and any of the DOT information. And they are indeed made in the good old US of A. All right, let's go. I'm gonna start the stopwatch on the old Casio. We're gonna mount this tire on this wheel using basic tools you probably already have. If you notice, I'm not gonna run a rim flap. That's personal choice. I don't run them on anything of mine. We off-road, I put highway miles on, I've had no problems. If your wheel is rusty and rough, you might wanna think about either cleaning it up or running a rim flap, but that's why I don't have them on here, but that choice is up to you. Let's go, starting the clock right now. First step, soapy water. I like just Dawn dish soap. I do the back side of the other bead from here and the front side from there. And spin it around, do the same thing again. Then you don't really have to stop and do it again. You don't want a ton of water down in your wheel, so just make sure, sometimes even just putting it on your hand and spreading it around like that. Now's the time to make sure and know whether you have a directional or non-directional tire. Obviously these are NDTs, so it doesn't matter. I'm starting with the back side of the rim facing out, you can see this side of the wheel has a deeper well. Just lay it up against your leg like that and force it down inside. Roll it over. The bigger and stronger you are in this part, the better. Oh, that one flopped right in. So that's great. Take note, my valve stem hole is facing up. This is when I like my Jeep bumper. I just rest it right there like that. Get your tube. Some people like to put air in them. That's up to you. I don't. Throw it over the wheel. Start the stem through the valve stem hole. Reach through. Take the cap off. Then I like having some sort of valve stem tool that has something to grab onto, because as we do this, that tube might try to fall inside the wheel. So I'm attaching the valve stem tool to the valve. Give it a little wiggle. Now you're just going to, this is kind of an important part, make sure your tube doesn't get twisted or kinked. But I found if you do it this way, it kind of prevents that, because the tube actually fits pretty snugly over the wheel. Okay, so now it's in the valve stem hole. You can see my tool is holding it in place. And now I'm going to set it down on my lap like this. And I'm just going to take it and keep pushing down on the rim, and you'll have room to push the tube up inside the tire without, we're not rolling it over, we're stuffing it up in. Just go a little bit at a time. Each time you get a new bite, push your wheel down. You'll have a pretty good view. I'll turn around here. Up top to make sure you're not twisting it. Bunching it is fine. Rolling it and twisting it is not okay. So keep pushing down. Just bunching it and sticking it up there. Not rolling it. Push down. As you get towards the end of this process, it is going to get tighter because you're not going to have as much room. But rest assured, it will fit in there. And this is the part where I prefer to not have air in the tube, because it just takes up more space. Push down, shove it in. Tube is in there. The rim is loose. Now's a great time to roll it around. And it's really important that it is not kinked or twisted. This one looks good. I always like to keep my valve stem at the top. And you can also reach up in here on the front side, feel all the way around, but there's nothing rolled. It's good. Okay, this is a good time if you don't have soapy water on the back feed, or if it took you long enough that it dried up. It's pretty hot here today. Set it face down. Okay, so now we're going to push the wheel forward and pull the tire back. We're going to take our knees and use the body weight to push the tire down over the bead as far as you can. I usually only use one tire tool. Now's an important time to not pinch the tube. So I like to sneak my finger up in here. You can use the hooked end for a little while. I don't want to scratch my wheel, and I don't want to pinch my tube. So I'm starting the tool out here where there's lots of slack, and I'm sliding the tool over here. Tiny bites. That's the best advice I can give you. So use your body weight. Tiny bites. Push it down. Use your knees to help you. Come over here. See how I started it here, slid it over. Tiny bite. And just like that. If you're doing this in cold weather, sometimes it's a little tougher because your tire will be stiff. But generally a new tire, you're not going to have any trouble. So once you get it to where it's real tight, the hook won't really work anymore, and you want to go with the smooth end. But I like to put the flat side of that down, and be careful you don't scratch your wheel. But you know, if you need a little more soap, don't be afraid to soap it up. Don't stick the tool in any farther than you need it because you don't want to pinch the tube. Once you get it to there, give it a pop. Stick it up. You still will be able to look in here. I have space on both sides, so there's no excuse for having a twisted tube. You can still get your hand in there to untwist it if you have any problems. So I recommend, I have the stopwatch running, but I would take time and really make sure your tube isn't twisted. All right, so here's exactly why I have this attached, because it's a lot easier to pull that out than it is to try to, with having this attached. All right. I don't have the best air chuck for this. The kind I would recommend is the kind that threads on, or if you have a buddy who can hold it for you, that would help too. So now carefully take a tool off. I'm going to use a Apparel needle nose to hold that. And then I'm going to use my knee. We're just going to start putting air in it. Since we're using a tube, we're not worried about the bead seating. The tube will do that for us. So there won't really be a pop like you have with a tubeless tire. When you let go of this, you may notice that will try to sneak back in. Don't get too stressed about it. You're also going to hear a lot of air rushing out. That's just displacement. It doesn't mean you popped your tube, so don't get too worried about that. All right, stopping the clock. 7 minutes and 33 seconds. So that's your first one. By the time you get to the fourth one, you're going to be even faster. And by the time you do your next Jeep, you'll have forgotten everything and you'll have to watch this video again. Now all that's left is to pump it up to your desired pressure. I usually start pretty low. I'll put like 10 or 15 pounds in it and then just drive it around the yard for a little bit. That really helps get things seated, helps your tube get situated. And then pump it up to whatever your normal street pressure is. Perfect. Put your cap on. Take off all the silly little stickers. And we are done. You did the hard work. Now comes the fun part.